Live from Washington, D.C., Sekulow Live. Phone lines are open for your questions right now. And now, Chief Counsel for the American Center for Law and Justice, Sekulow.
Well, history being made as the President of the United States approaches the Western Wall in Jerusalem. I say history because no sitting president has ever done this. So this was quite a statement about Israel, about Jerusalem, about our support of Israel, but also a very significant statement regarding the place, Jerusalem itself, which, of course, has been subject to so much discussion over the last several months, that involving, of course, the transferring or the moving of the embassy to Jerusalem, which is Israel's capital, but yet the United States and other governments keep their embassies in Tel Aviv. So this was a big statement by the president. It comes off a very big starting trip in Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh, where I think one of the strongest and most pronounced speeches involving radical Islamic terrorism ever took place. Marked different from what took place when President Obama began his world tour. I heard one commentator give a negative comment and said this will undercut for the Iranians the agreement we signed with them, as if anybody other than the Iranians care. Because let me tell you, the 50 world leaders from the Arab world in that room in Riyadh, they were thrilled to hear that. Jordan, your reaction?
Yeah, that's right. This is a coalition that's very nervous about a nuclear Iran. And though sometimes these countries are not perfect, and I think President Trump acknowledged that about their cultures and their societies, they are not, again, they don't share all the values by any means that we do in the United States. They do share in a common enemy, and that is the Islamic Republic of Iran and their nuclear program. And so the putting together of this coalition of Arab Sunni countries to take on both the threats from radical Islamic terrorism like ISIS, like Hezbollah, which was mentioned directly by the president, and Hamas, and of course the Islamic State. Some of those groups are Sunni. I mean, so it's not like they were in there just talking about. Some spin has been of just talking about Iranian-backed groups like Hezbollah or the Islamic Republic, the Revolutionary Guard, but Hamas and the Islamic State would be aligned with the Sunni Islamic faith, and so that would be the majority faith of course, those countries that were represented in Riyadh. And for, I think, a president that, again, many people expected, I don't think he expected to speak like this or be respected like that by the Islamic world. You see how tough talk on Islam gets you further than acting like President Obama did, the soft talk. They don't respect softness. They respect strong leaders who call them out for their wrongdoing.
Let me play for you what I think was one of the strongest lines that the president delivered in Riyadh. Remember, this is a room full of 50 leaders of the Arab world. Here's what he said.
A better future is only possible if your nations drive out the terrorists and drive out the extremists. Drive them out. Drive them out of your places of worship. Drive them out of your communities. Drive them out of your holy land. And drive them out of this earth.
I give the president an A+ for that. I mean, let's look what he said very quickly here. Drive them out of your places of worship. That's the mosque. Drive them out of your communities. That's the places they hide. Drive them out of your holy land. That's Mecca and Medina. Drive them out of this earth. End them. We've got a lot more ahead on this historic trip, but your support for Israel is critical. We encourage you to sign our petition in support for Israel at aclj.org. Standing with Israel, 877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255. Or aclj.org. I'll bless those that bless thee, curse those that curse thee. Genesis 12:3. Back with more in a moment.
Israel is under constant deadly terrorist knife and rocket attacks. Jewish students, professors, and Christians who support Israel face vicious discrimination at U.S. universities, all in an attempt to delegitimize the state of Israel. Israel is our ally, the Jewish people our friends. It's our duty to defend them. That's why the ACLJ is launching a massive new multinational legal campaign in defense of Israel, in the U.S., at the UN, and with world leaders. But we need these global leaders to hear from you now. Add your name to our new petition, a petition to defend Israel from anti-Israel attacks across the globe. Call now, 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255. Or you can add your name online, aclj.org.
President went to Riyadh, gave a very strong speech. He's in Israel, went to the Western Wall. We were just saying during the break, this is symbolically very significant because remember, many within the Muslim world do not consider the Western Wall area to be part of Israel, and the president simply going there makes a big statement. Very strong speech from the president. Talked about rooting terrorists out of your worship centers. That's the mosque, your communities where they hide, out of the Holy Land itself, drive them out of this earth. Then he talked about confronting Islamic terrorism and extremism. Listen to what he said, number 22.
There is still much work to be done. That means honestly confronting the crisis of Islamic extremism and the Islamicists and Islamic terror of all kinds. We must stop what they're doing to inspire, because they do nothing to inspire but kill. And it means standing together against the murder of innocent Muslims, the oppression of women, the persecution of Jews, and the slaughter of Christians.
I mean, let me. That last line is very important. Understand, this is not a campaign speech. He's in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. He makes the statement, you've got to stop the murder of innocent Muslims, because they are also being killed in the largest portion, actually. Yep. The oppression of women, the persecution of Jews, and the slaughter of Christians. And by the way, putting the slaughter of Christians in there, this is again significant. President Obama was always hesitant about saying any of that.
Yeah, well, he never really mentioned religion in his speeches. Now, never mention the word terrorism when he did those speeches overseas in the Middle East. And so to call on Saudi Arabia, which only active church in the entire country is a church for foreign workers that no Saudis are allowed to attend, to call on Saudi Arabia to respect and to prevent the slaughtering of Christians, to the persecution of Jews. I mean, again, it shows this message. Did you see anybody walking out? Did you see any boos?
No, nothing.
Did you see anyone upset? No, they went right from that to an event opening up a center to combat terrorism. So understand this. These world leaders, wherever they may come from, respect a whole lot more a leader who will call out the problems like they are. Sometimes that helps them deal with their own domestic issues of radicalism, which many of the leaders in that room deal with on a daily basis. That is why you wonder, why would the Saudis, why would those other countries be so aligned with the U.S.? Because they have got a plenty of their own terrorists.
Right there.
They're Islamic, that want to overthrow them and cut their heads off. So they need the U.S. protection.
Yep.
But if you talk in those simple Obama-style terms of happiness and peace, what did you get? An uprising throughout the Arab world that has led to nothing good.
No.
That has led to the rise of the Islamic State.
It's been an absolute nightmare. All right, let's go ahead.
Failed states in Libya, Yemen. I mean, the list goes on. Syria, the list goes on. Iraq is still a problem. That all happened after President Obama did his peace tour and an apology tour in the Middle East, because apologies get you nowhere in that part of the world.
Because they understand strength and power. That's what you're dealing with. All right, Logan, let's get some either comments coming in on Facebook or Periscope or a phone call.
Let's go to Nancy, who's calling in New Haven, Connecticut online, too. Nancy,
welcome. Go ahead.
I just have to say that I am so proud of our president. Sad that he had to go to a foreign country to finally get the respect that he deserves. And it really makes me feel like proud and that America is maybe coming back. That's really basically
it was a very strong statement. I mean, his statements, they were as strong as they could be. And again, this wasn't a campaign statement. Listen to this one. When he takes on the religious leadership of these communities, number 23.
Religious leaders must make this absolutely clear. Barbarism will deliver you no glory, and political leaders must speak out to affirm the same idea. Heroes don't kill innocents. They save them.
So let me break that down for you, because you got to understand what's being said here. This is to the religious leading communities of these 50 countries that were represented. Religious leaders must make this clear. Barbarism will deliver you no glory. Understand that's counteracting their message of you kill innocents in the name of Allah and you get to go to heaven. That's number one. Political leaders must speak out to affirm the same idea, that barbarism does not get you glory and will be rooted out. Heroes don't kill innocent people. They save them. So that's a very strong message. It'd be very interesting if there's anybody opposed, or is there any real criticism, Logan, when you look at the media? Are you seeing any serious criticism of this speech?
Not really. I'd say some of it is, this got good coverage live. I'd say that it depends on what network you're watching, whether it's getting the proper coverage. Some have gone after nuances.
Islamic versus Islamists.
Yeah, specific words, and whether he's double talking.
I'm not even going to spend time on that. Right.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about the difference of 3 letters at the end of the day, and whether he meant to say it that way or whether that was just a flub. Right. It happens, especially when you're traveling and you deal with these situations. There's always going to be something. But no, not really. I don't see a ton of backlash from it in general.
Mostly positive.
Yeah, I mean, some I'd say from the far right maybe don't like the fact that he was even having these meetings in general. But that's not who we're talking about. We're talking about dealing with the mainstream media. Then no.
No, I think that's right. What was your sense, Jordan?
Yeah, I think that if this trip continues on this path, and I can only expect that the time in Israel is going to be positive. Next, though, comes some European stops. I think the time at the Vatican will be positive and pretty kind of
photo op.
Yeah, not
he's meeting with Mahmoud Abbas in the Palestinian territories.
Yeah, but I think all of this is making, especially after getting battered a bit before this trip with the news and leaks every single day, another story, that this helps reassure everyone that we have a president who is doing the job of president of the United States around the world. I think it was good timing, even though this trip was pre-planned way out in advance. This was a time where President Trump actually needed to get overseas, to be with these foreign leaders, to talk about U.S. policy broadly. I mean, he's going to be with the NATO meeting in Brussels.
He's putting a lot of the burden on them, too, though. This is not just a situation where he is taking this on, saying, in fact, he has that line, I don't know if we have it, where, don't wait for the United States. But let me play this one, number 16, where he says, we've got to work together. But there's a line where he says, don't just wait for the United States. I'll get that in a moment. Play 16 first.
We can only overcome this evil if the forces of good are united and strong, and if everyone in this room does their fair share and fulfills their part of the burden. Terrorism has spread all across the world, but the path to peace begins right here on this ancient soil in this sacred land.
So also, I'm going to play some of the statements he makes directly about Iran. We'll get those. Let's grab another call here before the break.
All right, let's see who's been holding for a while. Let's go to Scott, who's calling in Pueblo, Colorado. Thanks for holding.
Hey, Scott.
Guys. Hey, great.
Yep.
Thanks for my call.
Yep.
Thanks for your great work. I have a comment and a quick question. I found the timing of President Trump's speech absolutely stellar. For an area of the world where might is right, like you guys said, he's already demonstrated he means business. He dropped Moab in Afghanistan, and he has their respect. My question is this. With the new Iran deal that he just made, is there any likelihood that these arms would find themselves in the wrong hands like they did under Obama?
Not likely, because these regimes that are getting it are very stable. So this is not a situation like Iraq or even Afghanistan where you can end up with the people that should not have them. So it's likely these are strong militaries. They're in a military alliance with Israel. They're not going to come out in public and hug each other, the Israelis and the Saudis, and make some kind of statement. But they are working very closely together. The president knows that, so I'm not concerned about that.
No, not it's when you're talking about the Gulf states. These are wealthy, well-funded militaries, very loyal to their leadership, and are generally great partners with the United States. It's why if you speak to people who are in the U.S. military, they have very good working relationships. I remember the first time I was in the Gulf. It was in Doha, and it was surprising because it was the first of 2 trips I made to Qatar. But see all the U.S. Marines in their uniforms going through the airport there. No one was upset by this. And that was just a normal part of occurrence because we've got bases there. So
Right.
we have very good working relationships with this part of the world. And as President Trump said, it's one where we hope that there are reforms. He talked about the oppression of women, but we're careful to push as far as we can there without forgetting that the real importance of these countries is the security that they can and the military force and the alliances that we can form against terrorism, but also against bad leaders. So we're not just talking about rogue terror groups. We're also talking about major countries like Iran with populations of nearly 80 million people. Taking that on, you need the entire Gulf behind you.
Yeah, absolutely right. And Logan, we don't have time for a call. Any comment you want to get to, or do you want to?
Bridget said it's beautiful to see a president that isn't ashamed of Israel for a change.
Oh, I mean, listen, that's a great statement. Not ashamed. The Israelis are gloating in excitement that Donald Trump is there, the president's there. Why? Because this president went to the Wailing Wall, as it used to be called, the Western Wall. What a statement. Symbolism there. You can't imagine. We've got a lot more ahead on this historic trip, but your support for Israel is critical. We encourage you to sign our petition in support for Israel at aclj.org. Standing with Israel, 877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255. Or aclj.org. I'll bless those that bless thee, curse those that curse thee. Genesis 12:3. Back with more in a moment.
Israel is under constant deadly terrorist knife and rocket attacks. Jewish students, professors, and Christians who support Israel face vicious discrimination at U.S. universities, all in an attempt to delegitimize the state of Israel. Israel is our ally. The Jewish people are friends. It's our duty to defend them. That's why the ACLJ is launching a massive new multinational legal campaign in defense of Israel, in the U.S., at the UN, and with world leaders. But we need these global leaders to hear from you now. Add your name to our new petition, a petition to defend Israel from anti-Israel attacks across the globe. Call now, 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255. Or you can add your name online, aclj.org.
Al-Qaeda, Hezbollah, Hamas, and so many others must be counted not only in the number of dead, it also must be counted in generations of vanished dreams.
Very strong words, and including Hamas, who's trying to moderate itself, so-called. I said something very strong as well. Because some of those governments that are there have had to deal with Hamas, and the Egyptians in particular, and that's been difficult. Egypt is trying to root out Hamas, which is the Muslim Brotherhood, but that has been a challenge. Again, the president laying it out very clearly. Logan, who's next?
Yep, let's go ahead. Let's go to Jay, who's calling in Montclair, New Jersey. You're on the air.
Hi, Jay.
Hi, guys.
Hey.
Okay, 2 points I want to make. I'm a minister, but you guys are right on the money. A bunch of people in a hotel, and they all got roaches in their room. And they say, you got to get rid of the roaches in your room, but we'll give you a little insecticide. But we can't stay in the room with you. That's like getting rid of, as Trump pointed, in your own country, get rid of these people first, then we're united. The second point I want to make is years ago, Carl Sagan, who I wasn't a fan of, mentioned the Cold War between Russia and the United States both having bombs. And he said it's like two guys sitting in a room full of gasoline, and they both got matches. And they keep talking about the matches instead of how to get rid of the gasoline.
Yeah.
You with me?
Yeah. I don't like calling people roaches, but these terrorists are I don't think it's fair to roaches in defining the terrorists that way. The president's been very clear on this, and he talks about it being not something where the Middle East can wait just for the United States to do it. Listen to this bite number 44.
Nations of the Middle East will have to decide what kind of future they want for themselves, for their country, and frankly, for their families and for their children. It's a choice between two futures, and it is a choice America cannot make for you.
That was. I think he's got it exactly. This is very easy to defend. Some things are hard to defend. Some things are not hard to defend. This is an easy defense. I'm in court. I always look at, is this a hard issue to defend? This is not. That was exactly the right statement.
Yeah, it cannot be the U.S. crushing every single part of the Islamic terrorism movement. Now, there's certain the ones that have gotten out of control where it certainly takes U.S. involvement. I think ISIS would be an example of that. Iran, Hezbollah, those size groups.
Yeah.
But if the Saudis, if the Gulf stop their funding to Hamas, stop their funding to some of these groups, Sunni groups that are more radical. Because remember, even inside like the Saudi royal family, there are family members who are donating money to the Al Qaeda offshoots. They've got to, if they can route out the funding and get tough on the radicals within their own country, yes, you could see a significant change in the war on radical Islam and the war on terrorism.
All right, do we want to take a comment or a call, Logan? Your call?
Let's take one more call right now. Let's go to Mike in Missouri on line 2.
Hi, Mike. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Yeah, hey, Jay. Great. It sounds great what you're doing.
Thank you.
Let me turn this all the way off. My question is, I think he's doing great things. I think you're doing great things. How will this Russian thing, so he can get that behind him so he can actually do what he wants to do?
Well, I think here's what's happened with Russia. I think you've got a special counsel now. So all these, hearings going on before the House and Senate, and James Comey's going to testify before Senate Intel, I guess, in the next couple of weeks, publicly, which means he will say, Jordan, nothing. That's why he's doing that. But it's now controlled by a special counsel. I raised the question today. And again, this is going to be very controversial, but I want to raise the question. Because I'm a lawyer, I have to think of the law. Someone asked me this. If there was, quote, collusion between the Russians and the Trump campaign, if there was, hypothetically, and it wasn't, wiretapping and it wasn't internet stuff, it was just collusion on activities and the discussions that were taking place and sanctions, is that a crime? Is there a law that has, it may be not politically correct, it may be unseemly, but is it a crime? I think this is the president gets a chance to do a reset here. Special counsel has to do his job. I think one of the things the special counsel is going to do, these leakers are going to be found out and prosecuted. That's what I think is going to happen there. But let me say this. The president was also very clear about Iran. I want to get to this bite. I want us to be able to talk about it. Number 26.
No discussion of stamping out this threat would be complete without mentioning the government that gives terrorists all three: safe harbor, financial backing, and the social standing needed for recruitment. It is a regime that is responsible for so much instability in that region. I am speaking, of course, of Iran.
And of course, the countries that were represented in that room, Jordan, are not fans of Iran. In fact, thought the United States betrayed them when we did this.
Because we have military alliances with these countries in the Gulf and the Arab world. We do not have one. Iran is an enemy. They still are chanting death to America in the streets. They call for the destruction and wiping out of Israel. You don't hear that kind of language out of Saudi leaders. You might not hear nice things about Israel. You're not going to necessarily hear wipe them off the face of the map. You hear that out of Iran. And when the Obama administration went and kowtowed, because that's what they did, and begged for Iran to come up with a deal so that they could say, oh, look, we made a deal with Iran. You know who they left in their wake? Saudi Arabia, who doesn't have a nuclear program.
Right.
Which could definitely afford one, by the way.
Yeah.
And so one thing we have to watch out for as a country is if you really want to go this route and you want the entire Sunni world to also be armed with nuclear weapons, you would have a new arms race that would be similar to the Cold War, except for countries that are more cash rich than the Soviet Union or North Korea. And I don't think they even want to go there, but that's how they felt under the Obama years. Now they know they've got an ally again, and we would certainly need them, one, to continue to undermine the Iranian regime and their nuclear program because of, whether it's through spy activity, whether it's through infrastructure and the hacking that we do there. You've got to have partners in the region who understand the threat because it's on their border. To us, it can feel far away. To them, it's right there across the Persian Gulf or the Arab Gulf, depending on what part of that world you're in and who you're talking to.
All right, let's go ahead. Do we have time for a call, Logan, or do you want to take a comment?
Let's go ahead and take a call.
Okay.
Let's go to some people hold a while. Let's go to Sharon in Saratoga, New York. You're on the air.
Hey, Sharon, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Jay. Thank you for taking my call.
I saw something a little different in the president's itinerary that I haven't heard mentioned by anyone else. I find President Trump's choice to visit Saudi Arabia and speak to the Islamic leaders first before visiting Israel especially brilliant because it prevents the Palestinians from protesting during his visit because they will not be supported by the greater Islamic community.
You know, I think you bring up, Sharon, a great point. I think this was well planned, well structured. Going to Saudi Arabia, looking at that new center that opened up, which is very significant to fight terrorism, and going to Saudi Arabia to make the first of the series of speeches, I think speaks very well. But you know, I want to play this bite really quickly, number 28, because this underscored what Jordan just said. They're still chanting death to him. Iran is the enemy. We said that in our book on Holy Alliance. We meant it. The president understands it. Listen to 28.
It is a government that speaks openly of mass murder, vowing the destruction of Israel, death to America, and ruin for many leaders and nations in this very room.
Destruction of the leaders in that very room. Jordan, that was what you were underscoring. Then we got to get close to a word.
Right. That Iran sees the U.S. as the great Satan, Israel as like number 2, and then these Gulf leaders would be right there on the list of countries to destroy. And they also already try to destabilize these governments. Remember what happened in Yemen? It's ongoing right now.
In Jordan.
Those are rebel groups backed by Iran. The Houthi rebels backed by the Iranian groups similar to Hezbollah in Lebanon also.
That's going to do it for the broadcast today. I want to encourage you, as we are in a historic moment in American-Israeli relations and the ability to start this peace process again, ACLJ.org. We've got a petition up right now to stand with Israel. It's very important we hear from you. 1-877-989-2255. That's 877-989-2255 to sign that petition, or ACLJ.org. Let's stand with Israel. Again, ACLJ.org or 1-877-989-2255. I will bless those that bless thee. I will bless those that bless thee. That is the promise of Scripture. Stand with Israel right now, ACLJ.org or 877-989-2255.
Israel is under constant deadly terrorist knife and rocket attacks. Jewish students, professors, and Christians who support Israel face vicious discrimination at U.S. universities, all in an attempt to delegitimize the state of Israel. Israel is our ally. The Jewish people are friends. It's our duty to defend them. That's why the ACLJ is launching a massive new multinational legal campaign in defense of Israel, in the U.S., at the UN, and with world leaders. But we need these global leaders to hear from you now. Add your name to our new petition, a petition to defend Israel from anti-Israel attacks across the globe. Call now, 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255. Or you can add your name online, aclj.org.